Well, this is certainly going to go over well, isn't it? Let's go out there and look at the 2024 All-Star rosters that were set earlier last week and go over the names that are represented on the list. We already talked about this in a prior video, but every NHL team is represented. There is at least one name that every team gets, and everybody else that is in yellow was voted in by the fans. So all the white names are the names that were chosen by the NHL, all the yellow names are fan-voted, so that means that Boston, Colorado, Edmonton, Florida, Toronto, and Vancouver are the only teams that actually got extra players involved in the All-Star game. Every other team only has one. And you could have the debate as to whether or not it's worth it for Vancouver to have 5 guys and the coach, so 6 names represented, and then all these other teams only having 1. In fact, I saw a little bit of a controversy from Winnipeg Jets fans saying, hey, we're number 1 in the league. Why do we only have 1 guy going to the All-Star game in Connor Hellebuyck, and all these other teams that are not as good as us have more? It's not like we lack the talent, we just lack the votes. Well, there were a few injuries that occurred to some of these names, and they have been officially replaced in an intriguing enough way that I think it's sparked up another conversation as to the appropriate ways the NHL can traverse the All-Star game and its situation with the fan voting and stuff. So, Jack Eichel of the Vegas Golden Knights, the only Golden Knights representative, has been officially deemed out. He is injured. And you also have Connor Bedard of the Chicago Blackhawks. Both of these guys are out for a while. They're out long enough that they're not going to be able to participate in the All-Star game and competition. And for me personally, I was kind of intrigued as to whether or not Jack Hughes would even be available too. That guy's still injured, but he was actually named co-captain with his brother Quinn alongside of Michael Bublé, of all people, to captain the Hughes team at the All-Star event. So it's interesting to see how Jack Hughes is still in here. I guess he's healthy enough, or he's on track to being healthy enough to participate, whereas Bedard and Eichel have not been. So when it comes to the names that are replacing Eichel and Bedard, they go as follows. You have yourselves Vincent Trocheck of the New York Rangers and Kyle Connor of the Winnipeg Jets. Now, I'm not too sure how they're going to, put everything together, because I guess what they're doing now is abandoning the divisional format, because spoiler alert, the Rangers play in the Metro, the Jets play in the Central, the Blackhawks play in the Central, but the Vegas Golden Knights, they play in the Pacific. So you're not directly replacing Eichel and Bedard with 2 guys that are in the same division in Trocheck and Connor. You're just going completely off the map. Now, the NHL didn't say anywhere how they came to this conclusion of getting these guys. I can't seem to find the list of the votes that the fans went out there and submitted, so I'm not too sure if they just picked Connor and Trocheck out of nowhere, if they were like, okay, no, these are the next guys in line in the fan voting. But either way, with this being established, we have ourselves a draft that's going to be happening at the All-Star game. The captains and the assistant captains, plus the celebrity captains, are going to choose their guys. And the event gets interesting because with these names from the Rangers and the Jets added, you now have an all-star competition that is not going to feature a Chicago Blackhawk, nor is it going to feature a Vegas Golden Knight. The Rangers will now have 2 names in Igor Shesterkin and Trocheck. Meanwhile, the Jets will also have 2 names in Connor Hellebuyck and Kyle Connor. But with no Vegas or Chicago representation, my question to you is that cool? Because when it comes to everything All-Star related, people will get into arguments. Oh, they shouldn't get 1 name per team. They should just get the best players and put them all together. Oh, but they should get 1 player from every team at least, so that every team is represented. Gary Bettman said that he wants a reason for every team and fan in the NHL to watch the All-Star game. But Chicago's got nobody. Vegas has got nobody. And as we had talked about earlier in today's Pettersson contract video, the Blackhawks are in such a precarious spot that right now, heading into tonight's game against the Vancouver Canucks, the Chicago Blackhawks will only have 3 players in their lineup with more than 13 points on the season. Everybody else is a call-up. They're not doing as well. They're from the AHL. They're not great. They're all rookies. This is a banged-up team. Connor Bedard was like the saving grace for Chicago, so seeing him get injured in the way that he did and not be able to participate in the All-Star event because of it, I mean, a lot of people were saying, oh, the Blackhawks are just going to send Jason Dickinson. Like, unironically, Jason Dickinson is the next available name that could possibly be sent over to the All-Star game. Who knew that that guy was going to be an All-Star? But I guess they didn't go out there and choose him, because he's not going. Nor are any of the other guys that are healthy on this team. Philip Kurashev, Ryan Donato, Tyler Johnson. This is the point breakdown of Chicago. There literally are only 3 players available to the team with more than 13 points on the year. And it gets crazier when you go to 14. Like, only 2 players on this team have 20 points on the season that are actually going to be available to play in tonight's game against the Vancouver Canucks. Not to toot my own horn a little bit, but compare that to Vancouver, and what, there are 11 guys who have 20-plus points on the team, and one more on Andrei Kuzmenko who's almost there? So maybe you could say that for Chicago, their team is so bad that it may be worth it for them to not have anybody represented at the All-Star game. If you're a Chicago fan, let me know your thoughts as to whether or not that is actually important to you. Do you really care that none of your guys are going to go? Of course, we know Connor Bedard would have gone, and he probably deserved to go, but it's just injuries. They held him back. So are you ticked off that they went with a guy like Trocheck or somebody rather than getting Jason Dickinson? Meanwhile, for the Vegas Golden Knights, if you head over to their team, I mean, of course, Jack Eichel is the best player on Vegas, but there are still some other very notable and respectable names that could have been chosen. Mark Stone leads the team in points. You've got the goaltenders. Logan Thompson was just named one of the NHL's 3 stars of the week. There are definitely names on Vegas that are good enough to justify getting added to the All-Star game, but at the same time, you can't deny that for Winnipeg and New York, these 2 teams have been good enough too that you could say they deserve more than one player at the All-Star event. Vancouver and Toronto were getting all the flack because they had most of the votes and most of the fans that were making all these submissions, but the thing is, when it comes to Miller, Besser, Pettersson, Hughes, okay, not Hughes, he was already named, Miller, Besser, Pettersson, Demko, Nylander, Riley, Marner, when it comes to all of these guys, they're all good enough to be justified into being at the All-Star game in general. Like, if you were to take out one of these names, who would you say, okay, who's more worthy of being an All-Star? JT Miller, who's like one of the top players in points, or Jason Dickinson of the Chicago Blackhawks? Like, I can understand why they went with this, especially considering the status of the teams involved, but at the same time, it is interesting seeing Chicago and Vegas not represented. So it's an age-old debate, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as to how exactly you feel about this situation. I know we're going to get a lot of comments of people saying, yeah, I don't really care. Like, this doesn't matter to me. I don't, put any stock or value into the All-Star game and its festivities, but I will say this year around, everything looks pretty cool. I like the format that they're using in this year's All-Star game. Heck, we have the article open up, right? We could just go out there and read it. There's going to be a draft where each of these 4 teams will choose their guys, and all the other teams look really interesting. Matthews, Justin Bieber, and Morgan Riley, McDavid, Will Arnett, and Leon Draisaitl, not to mention the Colorado guys, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, teaming up with Tate McRae, who actually found herself at the All-Star competition before Cole Sillinger did, which is really funny. I'm just intrigued as to where the Hughes brothers will go with their own selections. They could go full-on NTDP if they wanted to, and just draft a team with Clayton Keller, Brady Tkachuk, JT Miller. Are there even enough names to get an NTDP squad over there? I don't think so. Actually, no, never mind. I don't know, there's an opportunity to do that. There's some other guys from America that weren't NTDP players but are still there, like Kyle Connor and Brock Besser. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the replacements being revealed and Vegas and Chicago not being represented. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.